All right, thank you so much for joining Kayla and I this afternoon to learn more about our experiences as counselors using the Score platform with our school communities. My name is Kelly Weber. I'm a regional manager of high school partnerships here at Score, and I predominantly work with all high schools in the West Plains and international high schools. Prior to joining the Score team last June, I worked as a high school counselor in the Freehold Regional High School District in New Jersey. I'm going to spend some time a little bit later today talking about my experience. But before we get rolling, I'd like to introduce you all to my colleague, Kayla.
Hi, everyone. My name is Kaila Brown, and I'm a customer success manager here at Score. And I work with high schools in parts of the South, Central, and Western parts of the United States. Prior to joining Score, I was an associate director of college counseling at Marist School, which is an independent school located in Atlanta, Georgia. In a little bit, I will be covering some of my experiences using Score as a college counselor. But in the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and pass it back over to Kelly, who's going to give you a walkthrough of everything that we'll be chatting about today.
Today, we are going to cover a number of topics, including an overview of SCORE, who we are, and what we do as a company. I will be spending some time talking about my experience using SCORE as a former high school counselor in the Freehold Regional High School District. Kayla will speak about her experience using SCORE in her former roles. Also, thank you to those of you who had submitted questions for us during the registration process. We will be covering the answers to all of your questions during today's webinar. Additionally, towards the end of today's session, we'll have an opportunity to discuss next steps. If you're interested in learning more or discussing your school's specific needs, we'll have some information on how you could do that with a regional manager like myself towards the end. And lastly, we have members of our customer success team moderating the chat today, so please feel free to ask any questions throughout the session. All right, let's get started. SCORE set out to build a college and career readiness platform that expands college access and improves collegiate outcomes. We did this by creating a network effect. This network effect supports all involved in the post-secondary planning, college search, and application process, including the student, the family, the counselor, the high school, and college admissions. We are the only college and career platform that brings all stakeholders to the table to create a streamlined, easy to understand process for all involved. As a result, students using SCORE report reduced stress around the process, and we've heard many students affectionately refer to SCORE as their home base. We really feel this is a testament to the network effect that we've created. SCORE is currently connected with more than 1,700 colleges and universities on our platform. With nearly 1 million students on our platform, adding roughly 2,000 students daily, we are the trusted software in both public and private high schools across the country. We are the second largest and fastest growing of our kind to date. More than just a college prep platform, with SCORE, students have access to a variety of post secondary planning options, including our career and personality assessments. Beginning with Principals U, Principals U is a modern way to engage Gen Z students about careers, and it measures across three dimensions for students: cognitive, interpersonal, and motivational. It can be taken in one class period, and students are matched with careers and receive a full report helping them better understand their tendencies. With SCORE's Career Interest Assessment, this taps into student interest and can be completed in 5 to 10 minutes. Additionally, with SCORE's Career Exploration, students can filter careers by assessment results, career clusters, income, education needed, and bright outlook. Students can save careers and view detailed information, add related majors to their preferences, and much more. Some of the features you can expect to utilize on SCORE's platform are listed here. I want to go ahead and highlight a few of these from my own personal experience. I'll cover surveys, calendar management, visits, the dashboard, the counselor, student, and parent guardian mobile apps, document sending, file sharing, letters of recommendation request, and standard and customized reports. But first, let's start with surveys. Counselors can create their own surveys in Scoir and assign surveys to individual students, a group of students, or an entire class year. Counselors can also create and assign surveys to parents and guardians. As a counselor, I was able to quickly create a survey with a description of the survey, including a variety of questions from free-form to multi-select responses. I could make certain questions required and even make certain surveys visible to teachers with letter of recommendation requests. Some of my personal favorites were my transition to high school survey to get to know my ninth graders better, a student support survey to find out what types of information students were looking for, such as financial aid information or military and trade school opportunities. As a counselor, you can easily access student and parent survey responses from your counselor dashboard. Scoir's calendar allows counselors to set their own office hours that students can see and register for directly from their student dashboards. For ease of use, Scoir's calendar links directly to the counselor's external Google or Microsoft Outlook calendars. Additionally, counselors set their visit availability in Scoir. With visit availability, this is where counselors can set this, and then college representatives will be able to see college representative visit openings at your school that they can register for to meet with your students. Counselors can choose to require a booking confirmation, RSVP dates, and so much more. Scoir's Counselor Dashboard provides a comprehensive overview of your counselor caseload with the ability to toggle between class years. Counselors have a quick access to which seniors have applied to college, have been accepted, and enrolled. Additionally, counselors can check document status from their dashboard, like which students need fee waivers signed, early decision contract signatures, and outstanding teacher request. Some of my favorites on the counselor dashboard include student activity levels, like registration and logins, and a list of which colleges are the most popular amongst my students, based on following, applying, and applied rates. This helped me gauge trends within the college admissions field, if I was seeing more students applying out of state, or if there was a college growing in popularity amongst my students. With Scoir's mobile apps, this allows students, parents, and counselors to access all that Scoir has to offer directly from their phones. Scoir's student app has a 5-star rating from over 1,800 users, and for good reason. Students love to use it for post-secondary planning, discovering colleges, and building their college list, whether they are home or on the bus to school or practice. Scoir's electronic delivery system combines data and intelligence to save you time, reduce stress, and improve accuracy. With Scoir, counselors can quickly identify missing requirements, keep track of deadlines, and send application documents. Counselors can manage documents by uploaded, required documents individually, or in bulk for all of their students. With a few clicks, counselors can send documents to colleges. We've sent over 1 million documents and counting. Lastly, counselors can keep track of all their sent documents with key details like document type, college, send date, and more. Scoir's My Drive is a place for students, counselors, and parent guardians to collaborate and share documents and files. At my former high school, this was an organized space for students to share their college essays with me for suggestions or feedback. I would also upload and share out our elective course catalog and other important information for students in My Drive. Students receive notifications when new documents have been added to ensure everyone is on the same page. Letter of recommendation request can be sent to teachers directly in Scoir. If preferred by the high school, teachers can view survey brag sheets from students as well as the students' extracurricular activities list. As a counselor, I love that Scoir allowed my high school to oversee our account settings when it comes to the letter of recommendation process. For example, counselors can toggle on or off whether students are allowed to request letters of recommendation from teachers. If preferred, counselors can choose to require counselor approval of recommendation requests as well. Scoir has 7 standard reports, including reports on applications and outcomes, scholarships and awards, class profiles, student outcomes, and more. Counselors can also create their own custom reports based on the information they are looking for. Scoir is discounted equal to the percentage of students receiving free or reduced lunch. Scoir believes in expanding equity and access so firmly that we discount our solution equal to the percentage of students receiving free or reduced lunch at your high school or within your district. From discovery to application, Scoir is dedicated and committed to protecting students' personal, identifiable information, otherwise known as their PII. You will hear us reference PII throughout our session today. In our research and focus groups with students, it was very clear that students want to hear from colleges that they are interested in, but they often felt overwhelmed by the volume of communications they were receiving in their inbox. And they and their parents had concerns around how their information was being shared and used. In order to keep students engaged on our network and establish trust, it was critical for us to take a student centered approach to enabling that student college connection. With that said, when a student expresses interest in a college by putting the college on their follow list on Scoir, that unlocks the ability for a college to further engage with students through Scoir's messaging and mobile push notifications. This way, students are only receiving information from the colleges that they are interested in and want to learn more about. Messages from colleges may include open house dates, application deadline information, and more. It is very important to note that Scoir does not sell, lend, lease, exchange, or otherwise any student PII with any third parties. That's including colleges and universities. We've created this unique way of messaging while protecting the student's name, contact information, etc. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here, and I want to walk you through my experience utilizing Scoir from your perspective as a counseling team. Prior to joining the Scoir team, I was a high school counselor in New Jersey at a large public high school. I worked in a district with 6 other high schools, and the district was made up of about 10,000 students in total. And as a counselor, my everyday responsibilities was overseeing my caseload of 300 students, grades 9 through 12. In addition to those college counseling responsibilities that you have in working with your students, I was also doing a lot of work with student counseling for social emotional learning, introducing ninth graders into the buildings, course scheduling, all those different counseling responsibilities that show up on a daily basis. That was all part of my roles and responsibilities when I was at my former high school. And in addition to that, I worked and oversaw one of the magnet programs in our district as the counselor for that program. And so our district was looking into making a switch from our former platform to Scoir. And we had done a lot of conversations and talks about making that change and when the best timeline would be to make that change. So today I'm excited to share a little bit more with you about what that timeline and implementation look like within our district. But I do want to point out that this is different for each high school, in each district and each charter network, depending on what your preferences are for your own counseling team and within your school setting. So if you have a different preference in how you'd like to introduce Scoir to your students in your school community, that is something that we can work with you on. But for the purposes of today, I'll talk about what my experience looked like within my district. And so we started on our former platform, finishing up the fall college admission season with our seniors because they already knew that platform starting in 9th grade. So we finished out the year with them. They were using Naviance, and we submitted applications for them via Naviance, including teacher letter of recommendation request and all of the school supporting documents. We initially began transitioning over to Scoir in the winter. And at that point, we began introducing our juniors to Scoir, followed by our sophomores and our freshmen, and looping in teachers and parents and guardians as well for the school community. One of the things that I thought was wonderful about onboarding with Scoir was the rollout resources that schools and counselors are provided to introduce Scoir to their school, to their communities, to their parents. And so we never felt like we were in the dark and doing things alone. Each school is assigned their own Scoir customer success manager, similar to Kaila Brown's role here at Scoir. And they're really responsible for making sure that you have a successful rollout and implementation. And so after we introduced Scoir to all of our students, grades junior year, sophomores, and freshmen, we began to really start working with juniors in learning more about Scoir, and then familiarizing themselves with the platform so they can learn how to request teacher letters of recommendation, sign up for college representative visits, and just get to know how to build a college list in Scoir. By the time they reach the end of their senior year or the end of their junior year, beginning of senior year, they use Scoir to request those letters of recommendation and do everything that they needed to do to track their college materials and communicate with their counselors. On the counselor end of things, our counseling teams use Scoir to manage, send, and track student documents by the time they got to senior year. This includes early decision contracts and college admissions outcomes for our students. Additionally, when we introed Scoir to our sophomores, they were really able to use the system to do career searches, career inventories, learning more about themselves, who they are as people in terms of what they may want to pursue in the future. And so our sophomores started diving in and getting used to the platform as well, and really falling in love with what different features they had to offer within the platform that could help set them up for success in terms of post-secondary planning. This also includes building resumes on Scoir, adding an extracurricular activities and achievement section in Scoir. The sophomores had a lot of fun with that, and freshmen as well. Freshmen like knowing that they can access a resource that sets them up for the future. And so freshmen were logging in and really doing a lot of work too to make sure that their accounts were set up. This includes not just our web-based browser, but students were also downloading the Scoir mobile app to make sure that they had everything that they needed ready to go. As a counselor who switched to Scoir, there are a few things that both myself and my colleagues noticed when we switched that made us really excited to introduce Scoir to our students. The first thing that I wanted to put out there is Scoir's customer support. So our customer support team is split up really into Scoir's technical support, but then also Scoir's customer success team, which I had mentioned earlier. Now, the Scoir technical support, they are committed to responding to our counselors and making sure that they get back to counselors, especially during those crazy times of the year where counselors need support. And that was something that our team noticed right away. The willingness and response times from Scoir support were hands down better than anything that we've experienced. And it really gave us reassurance in moving forward and knowing that we were transitioning to a new system. In addition, my student engagement on the platform increased tremendously, and students were really taking to Scoir as just a clean interface that is Gen Z friendly, that students like to use. Students were using the Scoir mobile app. They were downloading it on their phones. They were using Scoir on their modern web browsers, and they were really excited about discovering new colleges, finding their college fit and the right match for them. And so students were really engaged in this process more than I had seen before. And I do think in part that's to just Scoir being really similar to what students are seeing outside of school, what other platforms they're engaging in this stage of discovery. And students found that with Scoir. And so I didn't feel like I had to drag them to a platform anymore. They were more inclined to just log in and use it and then come down to my office and show me what new feature they liked or what new things they were doing in the step in the right direction. Also, I felt that Scoir's counselor dashboard just made me really on top of things, finding myself more efficient when it came to sending documents, being prepared to support my students. Working with a caseload of 300 plus students each year, you really have to be on top of student planning, parent meetings, and coordinating all of this information. And so with the counselor dashboard, I found that there was an ease of use with that. And that helped me stay on top of it for myself, but also for my students as well. I found that the direct messaging capabilities gave me access to reaching my students a lot quicker. I was able to post office hours, which is always helpful for students to just register directly from their student dashboards. And I was also able to just communicate with students in a way that previously I was not able to reach them as readily. So with that, I am now going to pass it over to Kaila Brown, and she is going to share with you more about her own Scoir counselor experience as well.
Thanks so much, Kelly. As I said earlier, my name is Kaila Brown, and I'm a customer success manager here at Scoir. But prior to joining Scoir, I served as the Associate Director of College Counseling at Marist School, which is an independent school in Atlanta. Marist itself transitioned to using Scoir about halfway through the 2018 to 2019 school year, and I joined the team in August of 2020. One of the things that I loved from the very beginning about Scoir was the ease of the online training library, where I was able to dedicate a number of hours to sit down and go through the self-paced training on my own. It allowed me to really dive into Scoir and be able to see all the different features and ways that I would be using Scoir with my students over the next couple of years. I also love that, of course, if I had any questions as I completed the training, I was able to reach out to my customer success manager in order to get those questions answered. As you can imagine, Marist used Scoir in a variety of different ways. Students were officially assigned their college counselors in the spring of their 10th grade year, and that's when they were invited to use Scoir. We would use the various career assessments that Scoir had in order to introduce the platform as well as college exploration and career exploration to students over the summer. And we'd follow up that assessment with a class where students could dive more deeply into their potential career matches and careers that would be a good fit for them. So they could begin to start thinking about how they could use those good fits for careers in order to explore different colleges. As we headed into the school year, as you can imagine, the fall was very focused on seniors. So we would pick back up with juniors, usually during the winter time, sometime between December to about January, where we would do a full introduction into Scoir and college exploration. I utilized a seminar approach where I would meet with about 15 students or less for about an hour to an hour and 15 minutes, depending on the schedule for the day. During that time, we would really dive into how students were going to use Scoir over the next couple of years. And I loved how easy it was for my students to pick Scoir up right there in the moment. After I finished some introduction information and some level setting, I'd have each student pull their laptop up. They'd log into Scoir, and side by side, we would walk through the various aspects of Scoir. They would be able to do a college search, maybe compare different colleges. They would go to their profile and add activities and achievements, as well as maybe do the 5-minute career assessment all over again. And it was very easy for students to jump right back into Scoir. It's very intuitive for students to use Scoir as well. A number of my students would mention how easy it was for them to pick it up, how they liked how visually appealing Scoir was, how they loved how it mirrored different aspects of social media. And they knew that when they got home that evening, they could log right back into Scoir and be able to pick up right where they left off from our seminar. As we headed into the spring, I would really utilize Scoir for my junior year planning meetings where I met one-on-one with students as well as their families and guardians. I would utilize the communication tools that Scoir had to offer through the student survey as well as the parent survey. Through both of those surveys, I gathered a lot of information about the student, about their background, about what they loved about high school, didn't like about high school. I could go ahead and gather any questions that they had about the college exploration process so I could prepare to answer those during our meeting. And it made our conversation more fruitful because I was able to really use those surveys to help me prepare. I also use those surveys to help with my letters of recommendation in the fall. I would often turn back to the surveys to gather quotes from students, help really understand kind of what some of the aspects that I was hoping to convey in my letter. And it made my letters, what I believe, were more fruitful for the college admissions teams. As we head into that junior to senior summer, which I think is one of the more pivotal points in a student's academic career or their high school career, using Scoir allowed me to maintain connection with my students. As you can imagine, or as you probably know, seniors and students aren't very good at responding to emails over the summer. And I love that I could direct message students through Scoir. If the student had the mobile app downloaded to their iOS phone, I knew that they were going to receive a notification that I had messaged them, which would allow them to get back to me even faster than an email. It also allowed me to kind of check in on the student throughout the year. I would see if they were marking schools as following or applying. I was able to see how they were interacting with schools, maybe moving schools to not interested because they had toured over the summer and realized that that wasn't a good fit for them. I could check in to make sure they were adding activity sections to, or adding activities to their activity section in preparation for applying. I also knew that if I didn't see any activity on their Score account over the summer, that those were the students that I wanted to check in with right away as soon as the school year began, so I could see how they were feeling about their process, and make sure that we could level set again and make sure they felt very comfortable as they headed into what was going to be a very busy senior year. And then we use Score, as you can imagine, to help manage our application process. When Marist transitioned to Score, they found a pretty seamless way to marry what they previously did in with Score to create a process that worked really well for our team. Students moved colleges into the applying column to indicate that they were planning on submitting, and then they would notify us when they had actually submitted that application. And then we, as college counselors, would move that school into the applied column, and from there we would send transcripts, letters of recommendation, and any other documents. Completely understand that this was manageable due to the size of our office and our caseload, but of course, there are plenty of different ways to manage sending documents depending on what size school you have. As I transitioned into my second year at Marist, I picked up an additional role really focusing on data and strategy for our college counseling office. And I really started to pour in and utilize the standard reports that SCORE has to offer. And I loved how easy it was for me to run a report, filter down for the particular information that I was utilizing, and then be able to download it into Excel if I needed to manipulate it further or create graphs or anything like that. I was in charge of creating a mid-cycle as well as end-of-year report for our team, as well as our principal, president, and board. And the standard reports made it super easy for me to get that information and present it in a way that was easily digestible by those different members. Again, the standard reports were so easy that I was also able to create other data projects where I could dive into where our students were applying, how they were applying, and what that meant over time in terms of trends. I was able to study the yield at the various schools that our students were sending the most applications to ensure that one, that we had those college representatives come to our campus to interact with students, but also so that we could potentially tap on them for some of our other opportunities, like some of our speaking engagements and panels that we had. I also was able to dive into early decision trends at Marist and what that looked like and how they potentially changed over the last 5, potentially even 10 years, because we had some historical information in there as well. So overall, during my couple of years working at Marist, I really loved utilizing SCORE, clearly enough to join the team here. But I loved how intuitive it was for new counseling unit users as well as students. I loved the ease of standard reports and how I was able to really dive into information about where my students were applying and how, etc. I loved how easy it was for us to integrate SCORE with a current process that works for our office. And then I really do have to plug the customer service here at SCORE. Being able to have not only my customer success manager, but also the SCORE support team to assist with any questions or issues that I had made me feel more confident as I was using SCORE. But now I'm going to pass it back over to Kelly.
Thanks so much, Kaila. At this time, we'll answer questions that all of you provided when you registered to attend our session today. The first question is, how much does Score cost? Score is $2.52 per student per year, with a proportional discount available for students receiving free or reduced lunch. Can students apply with Common App, the college website, etc. while using Score? Score supports counselors and students regardless of their application method. Students can apply to college using their preferred application method, whether that be Common App, the college-specific website, or state application systems like Apply Texas, the UCs, and Cal States, for example. Additionally, students can apply to coalition member colleges directly through Score. Apply with Score allows students to apply to these colleges directly from their Score account, saving them time and providing them with resources on affordability, fee waivers, and more. Unique to SCORE, we've developed our own send system for supporting application documents. There is an ease of the supporting documents going directly from SCORE to the college or university. There is no middleman or application method in between for those documents to go to. They go directly from SCORE to the institution. We are very satisfied with the speed and efficiency in which those documents get there, and counselors appreciate knowing when their documents have been sent and delivered, especially as we near common application deadlines, like November 1st, for example. When schools switch to SCORE, both teachers and counselors no longer need to complete the Common App teacher and counselor evaluation forms. Because students' recommendation letters and all supporting documents go directly from Scoir to the college, the evaluation forms are no longer necessary. The only thing that the college needs for application review is the letter of recommendation. So typically, when a school goes back to their teaching community and tells them they no longer need to do that form, the teachers typically get very excited. With Scoir Send System, there is also flexibility with documents. As a counselor, you will have the ability to send a transcript and resend if something happens. For example, if a senior changes one of their courses mid-year, you'd have the ability to resend that transcript for that student. You also have the ability to delete, upload a new transcript, and resend. Similarly, counselors have flexibility on which recommendation letters go to which institutions. You will have the ability to upload letters on someone's behalf, like a retired teacher or someone in the community.
What does training and implementation look like? When you join Scoir, you're assigned a dedicated customer success manager who will work with you one on one with you and your team to ensure that you have a successful rollout. This includes an online training library as well as a pre rollout meeting that will provide you with an extensive overview on how you will utilize Scoir with your students. Here is an example of the timeline of training and implementation. As I mentioned, you have virtual counselor product training or online training library that you'll complete. You'll have your pre rollout call, which is about 45 minutes one on one with your customer success manager to answer any questions that you have and get you set up to roll out to your students. Once you have rolled out to your students and they've begun to utilize Scoir, we will check in all throughout that first year to provide helpful resources and to make sure to answer any of your questions so that you can maximize your Scoir use. As I mentioned earlier, Scoir really prides itself on our customer service that we're able to provide counselors and users. And here you can see a quote from one of our counselor users who says, "We are really enjoying Scoir so far, especially the part where I ask a question and an actual human responds. The customer service alone would have been enough to switch from another platform."
How can historic data from Naviance be transferred? Our support team does the heavy lifting for you to import current and historical data. We provide a step-by-step guide for exporting data from Naviance. During account creation, we provide you with a guide on how to export that data from Naviance. You would then give that CSV of info to our support team. An export does not remove that info from Naviance, it simply copies and exports. Typically, if following those instructions, it takes about 5 to 7 minutes to complete that export. As an example, for an individual high school, it takes about 1 week to migrate the data and get your account set up in Scoir. Our team is here for you every step of the way during the transition process. Does Scoir allow students or counselors to mark which applications were submitted with or without test scores? Yes, counselors and students can indicate test optional. And this is reflected in your reports as well as a counselor on Scoir. How does sending transcripts and other documents work? I'll use an example here. We have a demo student, Gianna. In the starting stages, she will collaborate with her parents and counselors to help refine her follow list and then eventually her applying list. So on the student's account, this is their application pipeline that you see here. So after Gianna decides that she's interested in UT, for example, and determines it might be a great fit, she decides to follow or add this college to her list. This is where she's curating and refining her list with the help of her parents and counselors. For you counselors and parents in the room, it probably comes as no surprise that you have influence. We calculated that 43% of all parent guardian suggestions are accepted by the student, and 34% of counselor suggestions are also accepted by the student. Those schools usually end up at least on the student's follow list. Moving into senior year, students begin to drag and drop schools into their applying list. This is essentially creating their application list. When they have these schools on their applying list, this is now being calculated on the counselor's dashboard. This then gives the counselor insight and an overview of what application deadlines are going to need, your attention in terms of sending supporting documents. Once a student has officially submitted their application through whichever application method they decide, they are going to come into Scoir, and Scoir is going to act as their electronic request for their supporting documents to be sent. They do this by simply dragging and dropping that school from their applying to their applied list. As a counselor, you receive an alert both on the platform and if you choose via email, letting you know that that student has now applied and they're ready for their supporting documents to be sent. With a click of the button, right from your dashboard, you can access all of the supporting document packets that are ready to be sent on behalf of your students. You can choose to select all and then hit send. It is going to send all supporting documents, including transcripts, letters of recommendation, fee waivers, early decision contracts, and anything you are already signing in Scoir. You'd be able to send with a click of a button directly from your dashboard on behalf of your students.
What do you offer in terms of SEL or social emotional learning? All counselors, regardless of whether you use Scoir or not, can access Scoir U, which is our professional development certification for change makers. As you can see here, you can access Scoir U by going to our website, clicking on Learn, and clicking on Scoir U. We have a wide variety of certifications that you can explore, and we have both paid and free offerings.
Thank you so much for joining Kaila and I today as we discuss Scoir at our former high schools that we worked at, as well as what Scoir could look like at your high school or district. Please feel free to join us in the future for your own personalized demo with your counseling colleagues or book a consultation with our team to discuss your school's specific needs for your own school counseling program. We'd love to hear from you to discuss different unique ways that we can work with you to make this happen for your students. We will be leaving the chat open for another 15 minutes in case you'd like to continue to chat with us, ask any last minute questions, and get those answers that you need. So please feel free to drop those questions in the chat now, and we'll get back to you as soon as possible today. Thank you so much for your time again. We look forward to hearing from you.